Hello everyone and welcome to one more episode of Newspapers, Camilla and Caffe. Today we're going to read an article taken from the NPR, it's an online magazine, and we're going to read about works of art originally coming from Africa that have been displayed all over Europe and a new initiative to take them back to their original countries. So I've chosen this article that was issued on the 30th of April. We're going to read it and let's start from the title. Of course, as always, we're going to focus mostly on the language and I'd like to hear your comments if you've got any. Alright, so here we go. The title of the article is Germany will repatriate Benin bronzes plundered from Africa in the 19th century. So in the title we already have a word term typical of those that vocabulary that's related to war especially, and that's plundered, because we talk about these bronzes that were plundered from Africa in the 19th century. To plunder something is to steal it, especially using the force during time of war. So basically these works of art were stolen during the colonial times and are going to be repatriated. Okay, let's start reading the article. German officials say they have reached an agreement with Nigeria to return a share of plundered artifacts known as Benin bronzes. So, from the very beginning, we have a clear picture of what we're going to discuss in the article, what we're going to read about. Here we have German officials say they have reached an agreement. In journalism, we use the present perfect. We use this tense to talk about some recent information. So this agreement has been reached recently. So to talk about a connection with recent events, very fresh news, we use the present perfect in journalism. Okay, so they have reached an agreement, we use this collocation, with Nigeria to return a share, so part, of the plundered stolen artifacts known as Benin bronzes. Here we use as, this preposition, to describe, define something. So we are going to describe what they are known as. Okay, so we call them Benin bronzes. Thousands of plaques, so a piece of stone or metal with inscriptions. So thousands of plaques and sculptures were looted from the ancient kingdom of Benin, in now southern Nigeria, not the modern nation of Benin, by British soldiers in an 1897 raid, and were ultimately, so in the end, they were acquired by museums largely in Europe, most of them in Europe, and in the United States. So here we have one more term related to what happens in time of war. Thousands of plaques and sculptures were looted. So they were stolen, they were taken away, taking advantage of the confusion of the unsettling times after the war. So when there is riots, unrest, and people go and steal, taking advantage of this, we call this looting. Okay. So most of these works of art that were looted are now displayed in Europe and the United States. For the last decade, a consortium known as the Benin Dialogue Group has been working to repatriate these works and establish a permanent display in Benin City. So this group has been working to repatriate, to take back home these works of art. So we have the use of present perfect continuous to underline that the action is in progress. Okay, so up until now they have been working to repatriate these works and to establish a permanent display, an exhibition in Benin City in partnership with museums in Germany and other European nations. German officials announced on Thursday that they will work with Nigeria on plans to return some of its Benin bronzes. So when we use return, it means to send back. So to return some of its Benin bronzes in the year ahead. so in the next year, the coming year. The participants are in agreement with that, addressing Germany's colonial past. Addressing Germany's colonial past is an important issue, is an important matter for the whole of society, which means for everybody in the German society, and a core task, fundamental activity for cultural policy. They wrote in a joint release, a declaration written by joint release, it means written by the German authorities together with this Benin dialogue group. The German officials aim to return the first of their Benin bronzes next year. So their goal is to give it back next year, and will release more specific plans and timetables by this summer. So the fact that they will release means they will make public any extra information, any upcoming information about the returning of the works of art. They said they reaffirm their willingness, so their intention, in principle, to make substantial returns of the artifacts, but they left the door open to keeping some of them. So here we have an expression, an idiomatic expression, to leave the door open to something. In this case, which means to basically leave the possibility for things to change. When we use a verb after a preposition, just like in this case, we use the ing form, as we can find in this article. So they left the door open to keeping some of them, some of the Benin bronzes. So the plan is to give them back. They're going to start with some of them, and then we will see if they will return them all or not. Discussions with the Nigerian partners are to cover not only returns to the cooperation projects in Nigeria, but also whether and how, so if and how Benin bronzes, as part of humanity's cultural heritage, can in future be shown in Germany as well, they said. So this idea is a partnership, not only sending these bronzes back to to Nigeria in Benin City to display them, but to have the possibility to display them both in Germany and in Nigeria. So when we use the expression, the discussions with the Nigerian partners are to cover not only returns but also cooperation, it means the objective of the discussion is to cover both, are supposed to cover both topics, the returns and the joint exhibitions, the cooperation. Numerous German museums are in possession of Benin bronzes, the officials said. They invited the ones who are not part of the Benin dialogue group to join them in their efforts, so in their attempts to bring them back. We use the word effort when an attempt involves some sort of putting energy into it, when something is not easy. There are far more of these historical objects scattered across the globe. So there are many more spread in numerous different areas of the world, scattered across the globe. So there are more scattered across the globe than in their native country, according to the author Dan Hicks. He told Art News, another magazine, that 45 institutions in the United Kingdom and 38 in the US hold Benin bronzes, compared to just 9 in Nigeria. So these works of art, originally from Nigeria, from the Benin area, they are scattered all over the world, but only 9 exhibitions, so 9 museums, are actually in Nigeria, and the great majority is in other parts of the world. So most of these works of art are being held and being exhibited far away from their place of origin. Berlin's Ethnological Museum is home to one of the world's largest collections of artifacts from the ancient kingdom, as the Associated Press reports. So most of these works of art, we can find them in Germany, which is home to one of the largest collections. Its inventory is estimated to include, so we have general calculation, not very exact, so it's estimated to include some 530 items, including 440 bronzes. So when we use some before a number, it means more or less something like 530 items in Germany. And roughly, once again, more or less, 900 such artifacts are housed in the British Museum alone. So only in the British Museum we can find more or less 900 of these pieces. Activists are increasingly calling for cultural institutions to repatriate their Benin bronzes. So activists are raising awareness, are publicly asking, demanding action from institutions. So they are raising this issue publicly. So they are calling for cultural institutions to repatriate their Benin bronzes, widely seen as a symbol of colonial conquest. So many people consider it a symbol of colonial conquest. And they want to repatriate them to Nigeria, though few have actually done so. So even if there is this call for action, only few have actually repatriated, very few institutions have repatriated these artworks, these artifacts. The French state promised 2 years ago to repatriate 26 such artifacts by 2021, but as Art News reported this month, none has permanently left the country yet. So this action is not finished, okay? There is no conclusion to this. The action is still in progress to use the present perfect. None has permanently left the country yet. And while the British government has said institutions should retain and explain controversial artifacts, some regional UK measures appear to disagree, as The Guardian reports. So when we talk about controversial artifacts, it means that these artifacts, they basically stir up a debate, they cause public discussion. So this topic has become more and more difficult, let's say, to deal with in public because there are opposing factions. That's what controversial means. And here we have this expression that I want to work on a little bit with you, is that the British government has said institutions should retain and explain. So retain and explain means that they would like to keep the artifacts that were not British. I mean, they took them away, they stole them from Africa, so they would like to keep them and get more information to better educate people that go to the museums to see them. So they would like to keep them and basically use them as attraction to the museum. But they would also like to have more information from the country of origin so that they can explain better, give more information to the visitors. This idea of retain and explain is not new. It's actually in quotation marks because it's a terminology that's become increasingly common when it comes to returning colonial symbols of colonial conquest. So you might find it somewhere in some other articles about this or other topics related to colonial artifacts. Scotland's University of Aberdeen announced last month that it would immediately return a bust it had acquired in the 1950s. So it announced last month that it would return the bust. So we use this announced past simple that he would return, use of would, to describe a future intention in the past. And they cited, so citing ethical concerns. So because of ethical concerns, they're not sure it's the right thing to keep them, so they're giving it back. Our panel concluded that this was acquired as loot, so something stolen during a riot or after a war, and therefore we didn't feel we had a moral title, said the head of the museum and special collections at the University of Aberdeen. The next meeting of the Benin Dialogue Group is set for May 27th. So, it's actually kind of new, this topic. We have not really talked about it often up until now. So in the last couple of years there have been some movements and trying to repatriate these works of art to their countries of origin. But as you can see, as you heard from this article, most of the agreements and the partnership are being established, have not been established yet, and many few steps are still to be made. And in fact, this article concludes by saying that the next meeting is going to be at the end of May, and we will see what happens. I hope you like this article. I hope this might have been something new, and so I think that there was some interesting language, lots of very specific terms related to the world of art and of war and conquest, of course. In addition to this, I would also like to tell you that for the moment we're going to stop with this project of newspapers and Caffe. But don't worry, we have lots of projects, so we're probably going to give you some news about what's coming next, what other initiatives we're going to create with the English Corner. So stay with us and follow our pages. You're going to find some new interesting activities to practice your English. I hope you enjoyed this article today, and see you next time. Bye bye.